Hi everybody, Kim here. Today we're going to talk about the Universal Church. I want to start this video off by saying that if you go online and fill out a thing to be a reverend or a preacher, or if you did it back in the 70s, 80s on the back of a Rolling Stone magazine, you were more than likely asking the Universal Church to make you a reverend. Now, with being able to be a reverend through the Universal Church and filling this out, and then you have to send them money to get the card to be able to perform these duties. You can do marriages, baptisms, funerals, whatever somebody would need a reverend for, and you're able to do it. And I'll admit that I filled out the thing online. I didn't send them my money. And then I found out it was the Universal Church, or the Unification Church, which the Unification Church, the whole name is the Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of World Christianity, is the full name of the church. And it was started in 1954 by, this part might be kind of shocking, Reverend Sun Myung Moon. Followers are called the Moonies. So, and I'm sure a lot of us have heard of the Moonies. And we've considered the Moonies to be a cult for quite some time. Moon had taught a unique Christian theology and believed in mass weddings. He was raised in the Presbyterian Church after his family fled what is now North Korea. When they were originally just in Korea, they followed Confucianism. Confucius say, man who runs behind car gets exhausted. At least those are the funny things that have come up about Confucianism. People always make up their own. And after they settled in South Korea, they joined the Presbyterian Church. And Moon went to Sunday school, he went to church. But when he was a teenager, he claims he had a vision from God that said he needed to finish the works started by Jesus that were unfinished. And they were unfinished because Jesus never got married while he was on earth. And so after he decided to accept this calling, he began to preach his unique form of Christian theology, and he was persecuted. He was also arrested by the North Korean troops for thoughts that he was a spy. And after he spent like 5 years in prison after being convicted of being a spy for South Korea. And he said that God created the earth from his inner nature, and that Sungsuri was the masculine form and Hyungsuri was the female or the feminine, and that Adam and Eve sinned in the garden because they fornicated. And what God wanted Moon to do was to create the experience of joy for people. Jesus had been able to create the conditions needed for man's salvation. But because he didn't marry while he was here on the earth, he didn't complete God's plan. And Moon taught that people needed to accept God's plan by accepting the holy matrimony and raising the ideal family. He wrote all this down in the teachings of the divine principle. And in the divine principle, he wrote that God is all-powerful and all-knowing, but is humanized, because he cannot be happy and complete without the reciprocal love of his children. God's original plan was that all men and women are to be sons and daughters of God, just as Jesus was God's son, i.e. divine, but not God. And if Adam and Eve had not fallen, all men and women would have been of the same perfection as Jesus, and that all men and women should become messiahs, i.e. persons who are one in mind and body with God. That all of God's providential work in history is to establish one God-centered family, and that the family is the foothold that will turn the world around. The Unification Church also believes that God's original intent was for God to form a perfect marriage in order to redeem humanity and undo the harm perpetrated by Adam and Eve because they fornicated. Because Jesus, the second Adam, was executed before accomplishing his mission, a third Adam was needed to perform perfect marriage and complete Jesus' task. This third Adam would be recognized as the second coming of Christ. So, according to the Moon and the followers of the Unification Church, we've already had the second coming. And as the perfect man, he would marry the perfect woman and become the true spiritual parents of humankind. Now, I know that the Reverend Moon and his wife are referred to as father and mother. They're not called Reverend Moon. They're not called Mrs. Moon, whatever they would call them in Korea, they would refer to as mother and father. And they did marry, and they had children, and they tried to create the ideal family to bring God's plan completely around. Moon's wife was Hak Jahan, and these are the true parents. Married couples and their families within the movement are regarded as the true children linked to God through true parents. So I guess your parents and my parents aren't true parents. Moon and his wife are the true parents, if we're married within the Unitarian religion. And this emphasis on marriage is the reason for Moon's infamous mass weddings. The holy marriage blessing ceremony is a core ritual by which couples are removed from the lineage of sinful humanity and engrafted into God's sinless lineage. Some of the people who get the blessing are already married, though many are arranged marriages because Moon rejected the idea of romantic love. A blessing ceremony in 2009 included 20,000 couples from around the world, and they were all married at one time in one ceremony. And I think we've all seen pictures, images of this blessing ceremony in 2009. In 2004, Moon held a let me take a drink because even though I've read all this stuff many times, it's not. There we go. So in 2004, Moon held a coronation ceremony in an office building of the U.S. Senate, in which he was crowned King of Peace by Representative Danny K. Davis of Illinois. Several other members of Congress were also in attendance. So they say they didn't know it was a coronation. The event was the finale of Moon's Tear Down the Cross tour, an effort to remove Christian crosses from almost 300 churches in poor neighborhoods. Moon considered the cross to be an obstacle by uniting religions under his leadership. So, as Christians, we believe the cross is where Jesus was crucified, and we do honor it, the cross and Jesus. He was removed from the cross after his death, buried, and rose 3 days later. A promotional video released by Moon's International and Interreligious Federation for World Peace claimed the ceremony marked the dawn of the era of eternal peace kingdom, one global family under God. And I have a hard time with the fact that our U.S. government facilitated this. After Moon's death in 2012, the movement split into various competing factions. His widow, Han Moon, is considered by many in the movement to be a messiah and the mother of humankind. She founded the Women's Federation for World Peace International. His eldest living son, Hyunjin Preston Moon, leads the Family Peace Association, while the youngest son, Hyunjin Sean Moon, started the Sanctuary Church. And in February of 2018, the Unification Movement offshoot, Sanctuary Church, held a blessing ceremony. As the invitation noted, the couples were asked to bring the accoutrements of the nation of Cheon-il-guk. The Cheon-il-guk is a nation of cosmic peace and unity, a universal group of individuals aspiring to bring a world centered on principles of love, and true service. Along with crowns, the members were to bring a rod of iron, which was designated by the second king, Moon's son Hyunjin, as an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle or equivalent. So I've seen pictures of this ceremony where these people are getting married, they're being blessed, and they look like soldiers, but apparently they're just members of the church in camouflage surrounding the ceremony holding AR-15s. And that's really scary. So even though they stress God and Jesus, they're not Christian. And they have totally wrong views on this church. So, sorry, Gus wants to say his part. But it's really disconcerting that our government participated in the coronation of Reverend Moon. So that's today's video. And for tomorrow's, I'll do the same thing as I did for this one. I took my list of churches that are considered a cult and closed my eyes and just waved my finger around and landed on one. So I'm not sure which one we're going to do tomorrow. But we do have plenty to choose from, even though what I had originally reported on as far as churches that were considered cults, there's only like 9. But I'm going to look at some other ones that are considered cults, like the Branch Davidians that were in Waco, Texas, the offshoots of the LDS Church. We have a whole lot to cover and a lot of different churches. But don't forget to like, subscribe, share the video if you really liked it or you think you might know somebody else that likes it. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye.